Spencer Wayne. I'm here broadcasting, if you want to say that, from Pipestone today. I have a special guest with me, and the topic is Latin America, pig production in Latin America. My guest is a person I've known for a long time. He's my eternal expert on everything Latin America. He is from Chile. His name is Gustavo Pizarro. He's a veterinarian from Chile. He was really a production expert, and I'll just turn it over to Gustavo. Gustavo, why don't you please give your background and your background with us, and maybe retrace your steps over the last 12 years might be a good way to do it in broad strokes.
Okay, thank you. Well, thanks for invite first. I don't like when you say expert because that's a very, very high credit, and when you always are learning, it's hard to be an expert, but I've been, lucky in my career, I think. I started in Chile as a veterinarian in early 90s.
You were right away with Super Pollo, or one of the companies down there? I'm trying to think of the original stuff.
I started as an intern in Super Pollo, Super today. Very large company in agriculture, agribusiness. At that time, they were large in the swine industry, but not really popular in many sense. But at that time, I started to do an internship with them, and was very special for me because it was when I decided to do my career in swine industry, because I just fall in love with the kind of industry, the concept, the intensive, and also the biological component of that, and I just know them for a long time.
For people like you and me and other, like a lot of the veterinarians here, it's the animal, the people, and the machine. It's all coming together. It's a fun way to think about agriculture. It's an interesting concept. So that was the beginning. But then, did you go to PIC right away then, or
my first job was in PIC, a franchise there. That was about 6 years in early my career doing business. Beside the technical component that was more in reproduction, because we sell gilts, right? And my career, I face gilt challenge because everybody complain about the performance. So my role was go to farm and prove that the product works.
Yeah, just support the product.
Yes.
Go there, support the product, make sure it works well for the customer.
So that was a big component, and also in AI area. At that time, again, 90s, many farms were natural service. So one of my first job was to switch natural service to AI. So I remember 16 companies that I got to switch.
You came to Pipestone as a PIC support guy, like a technical guy that was going to help us. That was in 2004. How big is AgriSuper, the cell base of AgriSuper then and now?
In 90s, when I did my first internship, they have 45,000 cells. Now they 140,000. So
40 when back at the beginning, and they've grown to 140 now. And I would say it kind of like you guys are the experts, recognize they're smart. Like Chile was well known for being very good at production in those years. They were known for it.
They started with actually I think 5,000 cell unit in 80s. Early 80s, which was a very important number at that time. Then they grow in the business, again 140 today. But remember, like 8 years ago, they were growing, where they have a project in 150,000 more cells in the north of Chile, and they struggle with some environmental things.
That was the copper mine conflicts?
Yeah, okay. So they stopped that. But that company is well known for other areas as well, like a chicken. Salmon today is I think we'll say the second largest producer in the world.
Salmon?
I would say.
Fish?
Yeah,
okay.
So... they're large. But back into that time, Chile was popular because they succeeded in the performance. And what make it large, worldwide recognized, in my mind, is that PIC at the time took those numbers as a proof of concept that the genetic was, performing if you provide the right, but, At that time, many producers from the United States and other part of the world goes to Chile to know what's going on. Then come here like I want to say expert, but support the product, and was the transition that Luke Minion was taking over as a CEO of the company. And I think this company since then did very good things. Structured the production better, production director, supervisor, and also define the roles of each area, like a production and veterinary, and make that work in a balance.
Yeah, it's been, how long has it been? 15 years?
Yeah.
16 years?
16
years. Of constant, steady change to try to figure out a better model, some better compartment or or grouping of people or processes to be better, so it wasn't to reduce the chaos. Constant reduction of chaos is kind of the effort, maybe, for order and clarity.
That plus, define the right protocols, and I think this company make a lot of good decisions, and you can see today the performance. And then, well, I work at that time, remember, like 3 years here, and then I come back to Chile, always in PAC, playing different roles in mostly focusing tech service. Then I took business during that time, just start to talk with the team here and Luke and Gordon, and they invite me back. But remember, during those years, I always come twice a year, keep the relation and technical component, and also I was kind of like interacting between AgroSuper and Pipestone. So we take team from here and go to AgroSuper, and that was kind of interesting, the technical exchange that we think we're very close companies, all the way. Now, then I moved here in 2012 now. I left PAC, which was my first job. And after 17 years, I moved here to Pipestone because I love the company. I love the mission and the vision for the future. I really identify me better than every other company I've been the place to serve.
You're on the technical side, you're here to support the product, but then many things that came up in that. One thing, not related to what I want to get to, which is Latin America, but like just a hardcore focus on practical application of things. So the preg loss monitor, preg loss log, whatever you're going to call that. Basically, it's forcing the person that's working and breeding to write down why sows are not staying bred. That was, it took me a while to wrap my head around it, but that's the kind of idea you had at those times. Like, we have to force people to stop and assess why we're failing and not wait 4 weeks for the Big Champ report to come back and have some vague semblance or knowledge of why. You have to know for yourself as you go along. So things like that, you were excellent at. Latin America, just describe what it is today. The exciting countries, where is it exciting right now? Which country really has a fun industry that's growing with maybe opportunity for them, for people from the U.S. to be part of, for us to be part of? Is it certain countries, or what is the industry like in Latin America in general?
Yeah, that's a great question, and the answer can be very long because Latin America has several different countries, several different industries. But just focusing in what do we do. I mean, for the swine business, of course, the biggest players, right? No question, is Brazil and Mexico. Those are the biggest players. And if we think in the future, it's also important because they have the natural resources for what this industry needs. Another potential player is Argentina, always has been. However, for different reasons, economics or politicals, always has been a big promise, But it's something that at least maybe, overseeing Latin America, always we watch. At least I have a good network in the region, of course. I worked 17 years there.
Hey, when you say natural resources, Mexico, Brazil, and Argentina have natural resources, are you talking about land or feedstuffs like corn, soybean, or do they feed a totally different diet down there? Maybe it's not corn, soy based. Maybe it is.
Yeah, no, corn, soybeans, and water.
And water.
That's very important, and also labor. They're very, they have very good advantage. Like in Mexico, for example, the location they have access to the Atlantic, they have access to the Pacific, so they can get to the most valuable market fresh.
Where does Chile sit in this? Because you're from Chile. Is that already, it's a developed market, it has natural limits now, It's not going to grow, or what do you...
Well, first, Chile should not be an agriculture country. Actually,
because it's a mountain next to the ocean?
It's mountain and next to the ocean, and actually Chile, I will always say, is a minor. However, in agriculture, has been efficient.
Yeah.
They had a good policy in that moment, and they learned from, irrigation or in the animal component, companies like this, AgroSuper lead the way. And also the isolation it having compared with other companies keep Chile free of diseases at the time. They eradicated and free for the most important disease except PIRS now, but it's very little what they have today. Actually, we as a Pipestone, we participated in the eradication program with them for 6 years ago. So, and yeah, I mean, the Chile, for example, can get fresh to those markets. That's an important limitation. However, has been a big player in during the last years. because they developed the volume, they were efficient and able to achieve this market. Plus, the economy of the country during the 80s, they saw very clear that the country is small. We're a small country. It's 18, 19 million people.
Chile.
Yeah, it is small. But however, at the time, 80s, they understood the way to develop economy is exporting, and they developed their politics, for export. A lot of
Chilean pork used to go to Japan. It was an exporting country.
Yeah,
Maybe it still is.
Yeah,
Is it still?
Japan is the biggest. Should I not update it? But it's the market number one. Japan, Korea. Those are the main markets for Chile.
Okay, so as far as the industry growing, you said Argentina, Mexico, Brazil, and they're all called a modern type structure, 3-site production, larger sow farms. Is that accurate? That there's development and growth in that kind of an agriculture, or is it a very smaller type of a farm that's just lots of it, or what does it look like? What is
That's a good question. Also, they're different. Like for example, what happened in Mexico, there is a lot of family companies developed during the 70s, 80s, 90s. Today, what the industry is facing is next generation taking over in many sense, with farms that are very sometimes really depreciated. So
how big are these farms? Maybe there's many sizes.
Well, there's different sizes. From 500 to 1,000, you name it. Now, what's going on the last years is, we have access to technology, right? So today they are willing to build bigger farms. In Mexico, in special, when you, depending on the area of Mexico, in our case, as a Pipestone, we're more involved in the north. You find water in the north, you want to use it, so they go to largest farm. For example, today we're building a 12,000 sow unit.
Okay, so big for us is 5 to 10. That's the current size of a sow unit. We would look at being big and efficient. You're saying 12,000?
Yeah, we're going to 8, 10. We have built the last 5 years 10,000, 8,000, and now we're building at 12,000.
Similar design that we have here, where you got one roof or 2 buildings maybe, but not
very similar, but because the weather, we can build the farrowing in one building. We do 2 in order to achieve cross ventilation, because it's very hot. It's not. Summer we have days with 100 plus 105.
Yeah.
So
if you go down into the southern Argentina, southern Brazil, do you get climates that are more similar to the Midwest, or no? Maybe all of Latin America is generally warm and generally more tropical. Is that true?
Let me tell you, it's very hard to have this weather somewhere else. No, just kidding. But
we don't have a Minnesota winter in like Patagonia or
but you don't have pork production there.
Okay.
Usually it's more in the central. It's like similar to Iowa, but in summer. In winter there is not snow. We don't have these extremes.
Okay.
Because it's the south hemisphere. So now in the extreme south, you got it, but we don't have.
There's no agriculture there. Yeah, that's natural.
But back into the point, actually, I'm glad you asked that question regarding the facilities, because when I started to get involved with more active in Latin America, it was through a project that we ran a startup. We customized
basically we started a farm for a client.
Yeah.
I want to start a farm. We did it. Okay.
Yeah, we did it for him. That involved the design, bidding process, the supervision of the construction, and the production. So it was very neat because they didn't have this kind of design.
What would they do? So somebody down there wants to... I kind of know what we've done, but you were in the middle of it. But so a client says, I want to do something. And we basically we built and start the farm. Mm-hmm. What would they have done without... If you weren't there, if we weren't there, they would have done it, not done it very differently? Or what?
I think very different. I didn't know this at the time, but then when we designed this farm, I look at it, I'm in a very unique position, right? Because I had experience working in Latin America and then here in US, and I can see clear difference. Like in Latin America, the way that farms are designed, in my mind, has a lot of paradigms.
Okay.
Yeah. So because in biosecurity, very important, of course, but the way that they approach, I think Latin America in general has been more influenced by Europe.
How so?
Small farms with a lot of department. They manage their biosecurity, with fence and all the stuff, isolation, which is all right. But they have a lot of internal biosecurity. You go to Europe, and for example, you for move from farrowing to GDU, you gotta change cloth and that kind of things. You have a lot of internal barrier.
Yeah, that's very different.
Very different.
Once you're in the farm here, you're in the farm.
That's US, right? So it's very different approach. And I'm not saying one is right or wrong. I think they're more, focusing bacteria than virus, and we're different.
Yeah, so things like, why are we worried about walking from GDU to farrowing? The virus is going to, like COVID, whatever, it's just blowing around. You're not doing much to stop it by a change of pose.
Well, that's a big difference. Like a Spencer, you go to usually when we take over a farm for management, for example, the first day you go to farms and you have a lot of
foot bath.
Yeah,
okay,
all over. Things like that. It's the concept. They have different biosecurity concept or internal biosecurity concept. So that makes the design of the farms be different. Like they have GDU, breeding and gestation, and then farrowing and weaning, in that order, which is not efficient for people movement or animal movement. We do different. We put the farrowings in the middle to make it more efficient.
When, I'm just picturing, you go down to the client, you design the farm, you help build the farm, you start the farm, but people down there know pigs already. They know how they already were doing it. Do they look at that and say, you go to the client and say, these Pipestone guys are all screwed up, they don't know what they're doing? Was it heavily questioned?
Oh yeah. And when we present this first design, that was kind of the comment. But we show our arguments and we design and building, and it's been very success since then.
Okay.
30 plus PSY. So 30 plus PSY, and also when you go to a farm and it looks like easy to operate, that's the art. When you achieve that, you are in the right balance.
When it looks easy.
When it looks easy. Yeah. And the problem in general is when companies goes to build a farm and spend a big money, usually something that the owner wants to be involved.
Yeah.
And just generally speaking, because it's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's like when I built the house, my wife and I wanted to have some say in what it looked like.
But
sure.
And in this case, it's kind of different because it's a good example. But so they want to be involved and they make decisions. And it's funny. Always I say like, hey, but do you work in a farm? Have you ever perform winning? So they don't know many things. In that way, what I'm telling you is like I learned that construction companies in general build whatever the owner or the technical person in charge says. And not necessarily that is the...
It's not the best way, but it's...
Maybe not,
It felt good at the time to the person with the checkbook.
Yeah, but in our case, and this is something I identify, we operate the farms that we build. And that make a huge difference because we know the tips. We know how to make people's life easy.
Sure. So I'm just thinking, farms in Minnesota have to be different than farms in hot Mexico. And you talk about cross ventilation is a difference, but we have to have learned some lessons. So when we go down there, we're working with people, and our folks are down designing things. If you have two lessons, like, we learned we can't do this, or we learned that we have to do it differently in Brazil or Mexico or wherever. What's maybe one or two things you say, yeah, we learned this. We thought we knew it, but then we had to change our minds because it's different there. Anything like that?
Sure. Today, still in the ventilation area, I think we're still learning, Spencer. Like for example, do attic ventilation.
Attic ventilation.
If we see the numbers.
When you say attic, you mean inlets in the ceiling?
Inlet, yeah.
So ceiling inlets versus cross ventilation.
Yes. If you see the numbers, still it looks like we can make it, But we never do that way because we know cross ventilation works, and it's a very high risk to make that decision, and then you have 105 degrees.
Yeah.
And you see the south puffing and increasing.
Yeah, and you're pulling all the air through a hot attic versus the nice outside directly.
Exactly. So we know that's something that we still intrigue me. But so far, for example, the one that we are building, 12,000.
We do.
We
do cross ventilation.
Yeah, we still cross because. But I've been pushed a lot to do the higher one. But that kind of thing is the.
Somebody else should do that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, do we do cross ventilated farrowing and gestation and everything?
Yes.
Farrowing. So farrowing rooms have a curtain on one side and fans on the other, and just pulls the air across the room.
Yes.
From the outside directly at the level of the pig and the person.
So far inlets in the wall, but we like the curtain, the PVC curtain that we're working with that. Oh. Now to answer your question, I think the biggest learning also is in the grow finish. Like in US, the way that we build or we design our flow for grow finish is very unique from here.
Why?
Because we have separate units. You know, we have 2,500, 3,000.
Yeah,
you know.
On the corner of a section, here sits a
Exactly.
2,500, 2,400 head barn. And it's not the same in Latin America?
No way.
What is it? Huge sites?
Yes.
I guess, yeah, massive sites.
Oh, very common that you have many companies designed during the 90s. They have a nursery, and then right next door the finisher.
Yeah.
Or a win to finish, but larger scale, like a 50,000 pigs in one place.
We did that in the U.S. too, and I think today they're very hard headaches to handle because disease builds up and never goes away. Is it the same in Mexico?
Yeah, in general speaking, many of the companies are their layout are like that. A lot of changed the last years, and now you have more in different places. However, still without set what is the proper, amount, and that's something that we are working because again, for side one, very clear. For side one, I mean sow unit, very clear.
Yeah,
we prove it. Build already 3 in Mexico, and they're 30 plus PSY. But for the grow finish, still debating. What we have here clearly doesn't work there, and what they have there is not the best because in terms of disease, like you just said.
The current in the U.S. I'd say it's almost like it's settled. Like best way is to have a discrete unit of growing pigs. You're surrounded by land to get rid of the manure. You can efficiently bring pigs and take away pigs from, and chore with a little bit of biosecurity to keep them clean. And if you have a disease problem, it goes away, and you get the next group of pigs, and you're starting over, always starting over.
We have there the continuous flow challenge, and we're working on that. And today we're designing flows for max 2 weeks in a facility, and we're trying to achieve that in one barn. Imagine a
2 week. Can you all out production then or no?
Yes.
You can. Okay.
Yes. So that's the idea. We're working on that. This is work in progress, and I think will be interesting to see what.
What else about something? Share something cultural, maybe not agriculture, but people culture. How is the farmer in Mexico or anywhere in Latin America different than the farmer here?
Well, I will say producers in agriculture are the same everywhere. We all share the passion for the agriculture and what do we do. In that sense, it's similar. Now, the way to achieve the goals, that can vary, and like you say, cultural. Many things, the economy makes the things different, like the labor, how many people per farm, the efficiency. Yeah. That's definitely are different. Now, in our side, what we try to do is how we can take the best for our system and make it apply there, with their culture, their challenge, and so far has been very well received. I think they're happy to work with us. And also in terms of vision, what we are projecting is build this network, because today, no question, we're long time here in the United States. Mm-hmm. In Mexico, we already manage, or between managed and consultant, like 45,000 sows. And we are starting in Brazil with a design of a genetic nucleus for Agroceres PAC there. So we eventually will go in this pattern, like a managed farm for different producers and grow as a company. So we will have participation in the significant markets there. And the idea for the future is also, think about risk mitigation or risk management. Why a producer from Brazil, for example? You're
talking about, just to back up a little bit, we're talking mostly to a U.S. audience, and I think where you're going is, you are in particular, with your connections already, you are definitely involved in a Latin American effort. And I think where you're going with this is risk mitigation for the U.S. producer. For us, for people that are working.
Oh yeah, going in that direction.
Yeah. To clarify for the audience, You're talking about activity in Latin America is not just some interesting thing you're talking about. For us, it's maybe an interesting activity for us and our audience. The farmers out there listening. This is broader than just you and I talking here. This is something for the U.S. producer to be thinking about. Like, well, this is an interesting market, maybe an interesting opportunity at some point. However that is.
Like a U.S. today export to Mexico. Why you have to produce here to export to Mexico if you can own a part of a farm in Mexico? That's market, diversification or risk manage your risk, because it's happened when U.S. lose money. Mexico can be like now they're making $35 to $40 per pig today.
Where, in Mexico?
Yeah.
That's the margin on the pigs?
Yeah, 35, yeah.
Did they ever have the plant shut down in Mexico where the COVID stopped the plants?
No, it was different. It was some kind of moment at the beginning, early April, but they managed well. I mean, that they, how can I say, first, the packing plants there are different than here. You know, they're not that large, so you have more...
more robots, automation? Or?
No, more they're not that big. It's split in many plants.
Split to many plants. You have a lot of smaller plants.
Yeah, atoms.
So you don't have a plant the size of the Worthington plant or the Sioux Falls plant. You've got something a quarter of that size, maybe.
Exactly, and a lot of the market is still live. You know,
it's still live.
Yes, live market.
Like where people are bidding like an auction.
Yeah, and you have the central. You know, you have a country that concentrates a lot of population in the center. Okay. So they drive the price. There is a lot of room for live market there, and then you have different states that are allowed to export. So it's completely different dynamic. Here in the United States, we depend on the packing plant is completely different world, and it's more like the role of a plant is huge.
Yeah. Oh, we found that out.
Yeah, exactly.
We've been living in that world the last 6 to 8 months.
So you see that make that the effect of COVID that we have here is completely different that they have there. So in this point,
$30 to $40 bucks.
Yes,
and has been that way through this whole thing. They've been making
not necessarily. I mean, it was a hard time, like a couple of months that the price was lower because of the speculation that what happened here, and also remember they had a lot of tourists that drive pork consumption as well. That is off. That is shut off.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And also the exchange, the dollar exchange.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not always roses, but it's in a good balance now. If you're a producer in Mexico, $30 to $40 a pig. It'd be nice if we could just sell wean pigs for $30 to $40. We're not to that point, or even close.
But you see, the message is build this network of shareholders, different countries, and I think we can generate that network. We're working for that.
Kind of a cool comparison with the U.S. versus Latin America. I'd say a lot of optimism to do good things down there, and U.S. producers should probably carefully watch and maybe participate somehow, but good things will happen there. SwineTime podcast was created for the pork industry and individual pork producers around the country, hosted by me, Dr. Spencer Wayne, with the Pipestone Veterinary Services. The podcast contains pork industry news, advancements in animal care, and how to enhance your productivity. Monthly podcasts are available on Spotify, Google Music, iTunes, Anchor, and on www.pipestone.com.